Now it's time for another new project. We're going to make an abstract sculpture using cardboard boxes. Should be pretty fun. Let's go. All you're going to need is some cardboard, some coloring stuff, and scissors. No glue allowed. Here I've got some cardboard boxes, and it's kind of thin cardboard. I don't want to use too thick of cardboard, otherwise it'll be too difficult to cut. I'm just cutting the cardboard into large pieces with my scissors right along those seams to make it a little bit easier. Now that I have my cardboard pieces, I'm going to start drawing out my shapes. I want to have at least 5 geometric shapes and 5 organic shapes. Geometric shapes are things like rectangles, triangles, circles, squares, etc. Organic shapes are kind of like made-up shapes, or blobs, or crazy lines like that. Now we have all our shapes drawn, it's time to start cutting things out. Since we're cutting out a lot of shapes, I try to do this as efficiently as possible. Cutting straight lines first, and then, making as few cuts as possible, I suppose. Trying to stay right on those drawn lines. You might even want to trim off the extra black marker from where you trace the shapes. When you get to cutting out the organic shapes, this can be kind of tricky. So I'd encourage you to keep your scissors in one place and use your other hand to rotate the cardboard. You also want to use the back end of the scissors closer to the handle. Makes it a little bit easier to cut with. Notice how I'm just holding the scissors still, kind of squeezing the blades together, but then I'm using my left hand to rotate the cardboard and make things a little bit easier to cut out. It's also okay to cut off large pieces of the cardboard as you're cutting out the shapes to make it easier to move your scissors. Now it's time to start coloring our pieces. I'm going to use colored pencils and markers. If you're using regular old markers, it'll work really easily and well on one side of the cardboard. But when you get to the other side of the cardboard where you see logos, you're going to have to let the colors dry if you use markers. Just kind of let it sit for a little bit before you touch it, and then it should dry and not smear everywhere. Here we've got all of our shapes colored and drawn, and they look great. Now it's time to just use the scissors and start trying to assemble this together. Keep in mind that this is basically a puzzle that's never been put together. So there isn't really a right answer to how you're going to build your sculpture. So what I've done with my scissors is cut little notches or slits in the cardboard so that I can fold and bend the cardboard and then fit it together. This is a pretty easy way to connect 2 ends of cardboard together, or 2 pieces of cardboard together, but it does take a little bit of testing and some trial and error. Now we've got a base, and it's just a matter of being creative and figuring out what I want this thing to look like as we go. Let's give it a whirl. Another good idea is to use a pencil to make marks where you're planning to cut things, so that you don't cut in the wrong place and then have weak spots in your cardboard. This is starting to look pretty interesting now. I like to pick it up every once in a while and have a look at the different sides and the different angles and how the different puzzle pieces are fitting together. Here I'm just brainstorming and continuing to cut little notches to try to fit things together. Feel free to bend the cardboard, fold the cardboard, whatever you need to do in order to make it stay together and also keep it visually interesting. Keep up the good work, don't get frustrated. Now let's have a look and see how tall it is. Well, here's a marker, so it's a bit taller than a Crayola marker. Doing pretty good so far, but I've still got some work to go. It's going to be interesting to try to figure out how to get this piece stuck on there. I might have to do a little bit of thinking and some interesting tricks by folding the cardboard and using my scissors. Now I've just got a few pieces left and I have to figure out how to incorporate these into my sculpture. This might take a little bit of thinking. Normally puzzles get easier with fewer pieces, but this one is getting a little bit tougher, so I have to be creative. Try folding this one so maybe it can stand on its own and provide balance for some of the other pieces. All right, I think I've done it. Let's have a look. It's holding itself together pretty well. It looks interesting. It's kind of tall, it's kind of wide, it's very colorful and three-dimensional and interesting to look at. There's all sorts of different angles and sides to it. That's a pretty cool sculpture. I like it. What is it, you might ask? Well, it's art.